Many artistic organizations or charities, places of worship, 501c3 organizations cannot endorse or oppose specific political candidates because of what we were talking about earlier, the Johnson Amendment. Our president is contemplating doing away with the Johnson Amendment that put these regulations in place. How, if at all, do you feel the Johnson Amendment has limited your artistic work, or what are your feelings about the possible repeal of the Johnson Amendment?
I think most theater and arts organizations can find ways to have work that is very politically salient without necessarily endorsing a specific candidate or party or position. So I don't think it's a gag that we need to be worried about. However, I'm extremely concerned when we've enshrined the idea of separation of church and state in this country, about releasing that restriction on all 501c3s, including churches, because that really does start to mix religion and politics in a way that allows for very charismatic people to have enormous power and sway over large communities. So I don't think we ever sat around and said, gosh, I feel it's really our job to go out and say, we endorse so-and-so and such and such. That's also not, frankly, very good for you if you're a 501c3. Let's be honest. In every audience, we have Democrats and Republicans and Libertarians and Green Party, and at least half of them haven't voted at all, right? Right? Let's be honest with ourselves. So it's not really in our interest necessarily to be overtly political unless we'd like to continually watch half the audience walk out the door. Yeah. I have some feelings about that.
Which you stated.
The Seattle Symphony is programming a concert with pieces by composers from the 7 banned countries. That's a huge statement. MoMA is doing something very similar with the art installations. I think if the arts organizations have something to say, they'll find a way to say it the same way Tchaikovsky did with the code. There are ways to get your point across, but I think shy of that, everything Rebecca said.
That actually segued. Go ahead.
Oh, can you, I mean, I don't know why I'm being so like, art for people tonight, but it's like, can you really, once you become 501c3, I mean, does the real art just stop? Do you think about your public? And you have to have subscribers, and you have to have money, and you can't piss anybody off, or, I mean, does anybody feel that way running these places, or is it not an issue at all, you know, or is it you're just like, sure, I mean, I think the argument every artistic director and executive director have at some point during the season is, I would like to do this play, I have a burning desire, and the executive director says, great, that will sell 10 tickets, and we have to pay people, right? Like, there is a certain give and take, but the idea that once you're making money, you're never doing real art again, or you can't be a real artist, I think that's a false choice.
Finding the first opportunity to squeeze Fringe into the conversation tonight. So I think what's interesting, I think over, and you know, I'm only 33, so obviously my world perspective is not as great as it will be in another 20 or so years. But I can't say, like, growing up as like someone who was kind of on the cusp of millennialism and stuff, like I do remember a time where we didn't have internet in the house, and oh God, I miss those days sometimes. But I think we're kind of now at this point where people don't just want to consume art and entertainment from a small handful of sources anymore. Everyone wants variety, and everyone wants a large amount of choice to choose from, and there's part of that plays into just how our society works. But I think there's also this idea, and this is nothing against the large and amazing and wonderful arts organizations we have in the city, who I enjoy immensely, but there's something to be said about this being a time for individual artists to find the opportunity to step up and do what they love. Because it's a lot cheaper and it's a lot easier for an individual artist to produce the work they want to do than to take it somewhere and find some big regional theater to put on their play that features Vladimir Putin in a mini skirt or something. You know, it's like, if you want to do that work, great. And if you can find a an audience that loves that work and get them to give you the money and to pay the tickets to see your shows, then you are becoming successful as an artist. And even if you're only affecting a small handful of people, you are making a change and you are putting your voice out there and letting it be part of this giant scream that happens whenever arts organizations get together and put on work. So yeah, I just think it's interesting that it's an opportunity for smaller artists to say, well, I don't care what anyone says about me or how everyone interprets my work. I'm going to do what I want because I have the ability to do so. But then again, not everyone has the ability to do so, and I'll be quiet now because that can be a whole other.
No, you segued so well into our next question.